interceptions on the day, but they still found a way to win the football game. So I like what I saw from the Buckeyes. What do you think, Trevor?
I think the Fighting Reese Davises of Northwestern can no longer be ignored. By knocking off Wisconsin, now they'll be favored for the rest of the season up until the Big Ten championship game against probably Ohio State. And if they can knock off the Buckeyes, they will force their way into the front door of the party.
I like it, Trevor. All right, I'll spare you my weekly sermon about how BYU and Cincinnati belong in the playoff mix, even though they really do, because as we know, they're not in a Power 5 conference, right? You know, like the Big 12 and Pac-12, who aren't worthy of having a single team in the top 10. What if our assumptions about who should be good don't jive with who is good? Alabama and Clemson and Notre Dame notwithstanding. The simple fact is that this season, our blind acceptance of who belongs based on affiliation alone is causing us to miss out on who belongs regardless of conference. Who's in, who's out, and who hurt their chances yesterday? We break it down next.
Welcome to Championship Drive. Who's in? Presented by Goodyear.
Week 12 headlines, Ohio State. Whew. It was neither a masterpiece nor totally convincing, but the Buckeyes held off a really good Indiana team, 42-35. Justin Fields, 3 interceptions, a career high. That vaunted Buckeye secondary allowed Michael Penix to throw for 5 touchdowns, but they did win. Meantime, there's a new dog in the Big Ten West, and it's the Cats. Northwestern shut down number 10 Wisconsin 17-7. Pat Fitzgerald's D forced 5 turnovers. The Cats committed 1 penalty all game. Offense wasn't exactly a fireworks display. It was more like a sparkler, but they win. And the Pac-12 still has 2 unbeaten teams. USC went on the road late night, beat up Utah 33-17. Keaton Slovis, 2 TD passes. The Trojans forced 5 turnovers. And Oregon outlasted UCLA 38-35. Tyler Shuck, 3 touchdowns. The Bruins were playing a freshman backup quarterback, but a win is a win. All right, Trevor, I've seen everybody's top 6, and we'll get to that in just a minute here. But no one has a Pac-12 team. Why?
Because the Pac-12 started last. The Pac-12 has the fewest regular season games, and the elite of the Pac-12 don't look as elite as the elite of the other power conferences. I think that Oregon and USC can develop into playoff-worthy teams at the end of this short season. But to start with, they're making too many mistakes to look like complete teams right now. We need to be patient and see how they grow.
EJ, they are both ranked, they are both unbeaten, they are both name brand programs. Why not a Pac-12 team in the top 6?
Well, I think, it's just that they don't look that good, just like Trevor said. And when you watch Oregon play last night, they were struggling with UCLA, a team that had their backup quarterback in Chase Griffin, who was dealing. He was hitting some seams. He was hitting comebacks. He was out there making plays. Now, obviously, he threw a bunch of interceptions and turnovers that gave Oregon the opportunity to get back in the game and get that lead. But they just don't look like the rest of the group as far as BYU, Cincinnati, Florida, Texas A&M, who are the 4 teams that are out of the top 4 right now. So if you try to compare those 2, I don't think Oregon and USC can really hang with those teams.
I will see what the All-State playoff predictor has to say about the Pac-12 coming up in a bit. Heather, it's not a lock yet, but it sure looks like it's going to be Northwestern and Ohio State for the Big Ten championship game, although surprising yesterday to see how vulnerable that Buckeyes defense looked. Given that, how does the committee feel about Ohio State and the Big Ten in terms of the playoff?
Well, I think when the selection committee meets this week, they're still going to regard Ohio State as one of the top 4 teams in the country. That being said, Michael Penix Jr. exposed some holes in that secondary that we knew were there from watching the Rutgers game. This is not a flawless team. This is a beatable team. And if you were asking me who I would pick in the Northwestern-Ohio State game, it has to be a coin toss because of turnovers. You look at what Northwestern's defense did against Wisconsin. That's why they won the game. They had 4 3-and-outs. Wisconsin had 17 drives, and they came away with points on just 1 of them, and 5 takeaways. So when you look at that and you compare it to Justin Fields and his 3 uncharacteristic turnovers, I mean, Northwestern's defense right now is its identity, and they need to be taken seriously as a challenger to the Buckeyes.
Trevor, we sat on the same desk yesterday and we watched that Ohio State performance. Given that, and given what we saw out of Northwestern, what kind of odds do you think Northwestern has to win that Big Ten championship?
Well, they don't have the talent overall that Ohio State does. But what they do is get the most out of their talent all the time. Their defense is legitimate. I mean, the Fighting Reese Davises, Reese Davis can hit. And it's led by 3 senior linebackers, and they can do a lot of things to attack the line of scrimmage when you've got 3 guys at that position that can do so many things. The offense, led by Peyton Ramsey, is efficient, and then it'll sneak up and hit a big play that you don't think they can hit. So this is the kind of an old-school Big Ten team that can beat you if you make mistakes. In Ohio State, we saw them survive against the 9th-ranked Indiana Hoosiers, but the question is, were the problems that they have systemic or were they temporary? We'll find out.
I know this, we didn't expect the troubles that Penn State and Michigan would have. I don't think we expected Northwestern to be as good as they are either. Meantime, AT&T best performer. How about we go back to Tuesday? Jared Patterson from Buffalo. #Bulls Mafia. 31 carries, 301 yards. He broke his own school record, which he also set against Bowling Green. Also ran for 4 touchdowns. Beast mode. Still to come on Championship Drive. Who's in? We'll consider what kind of odds Oregon has in the All-State Playoff Predictor. Plus, Boomer Sooner. Oklahoma wins.
Florida right now has got that offense that you need to compete with the likes of Alabama and Notre Dame. The deep strike, high-scoring offense that I don't see out of A&M right now. It's a violation, but I'm living with it. Heather, what do you think?
Man, you guys are both totally disrespecting Cincinnati, which has a better resume than both Florida and Texas A&M. Better wins up and down, playing solid on both sides of the balls. That's my biggest gripe, but I agree. I struggled with A&M and Florida, but I'm honoring the head-to-head as well.
Heather is speaking my language there. You know, I want to circle back, EJ, to Ohio State. That defense, which has in many ways been the calling card of this team over the years. Boy, they really did look vulnerable. I mean, is that the defense of a playoff team that you saw yesterday?
Kevin, I don't think so. Well, obviously, the way they played yesterday, they are a playoff team. There's no doubt about that. But just the way that they were giving up so many plays. And look, Indiana also dropped a few where they could have had big conversions that could have led to touchdowns or even field goals that would have put them in the driver's seat of this football game. Again, especially when Justin Fields throwing 3 interceptions, that defense has to pick it up. But the Ohio State DBs just don't look like they've looked in years past. The guys don't look like they have the speed. Sure, they had a pick 6 that was very good and a late throw by Penix Jr., but overall, you're not really seeing the same type of defense that you see in Ohio State in years past.
Penix was great. Ty Freifogel, 3 touchdown catches yesterday. Indiana really had a couple of instances where they shot itself in the foot. Otherwise, they might have won that game yesterday. We know Tom Allen's team has been impressive all season long. The coach has too. Take a listen to him after the loss yesterday.
We ain't feeling sorry for ourselves. No, we didn't play our best football. You know it and I know it, but you didn't quit. You didn't quit! You fought them! You got character! You got something to you! There's a lot of football to be played! A lot of football to be played, you understand me? Yes, sir! We didn't come here to be close! And I'm ticked off by the result! But I'm proud of you guys! Because you fought! And you fought! And you fought!
And I'm ready to tackle a camera right now. Let's go. I mean, Tom Allen has the Hoosiers playing great football. Take a look at this. Clemson, Indiana, both 1-loss, both coming against playoff teams, both on the road. Look at these resumes. Look at the average recruiting class, by the way. Obviously, Clemson the heavy advantage here. So, Trevor, why does everyone have Clemson in? No doubt about it, right? And no one has Indiana so much as in their top 6.
Well, on the field, it's because of Indiana's defense. They do give up a lot of yards and a lot of points, although they do make a lot of plays on the other side of that because they're very hyper aggressive. But I think ultimately it's because Indiana, without the ability to win a conference championship, which right now seems out the window, Ohio State would have to lose 2 games in order for Indiana to make the Big Ten championship game. They really don't have a chance to get there. Clemson still has a chance to win the ACC. And so from a standpoint of getting into the playoff, Indiana right now is on the outside looking in, and I don't see any way for that to change.
And yet, Heather, we always talk about the eyeball test, right? I mean, has Indiana, in your opinion, done enough to pass the eyeball test?
No. I love the emotion. I love the heart. I love the energy from Tom Allen. He's got them believing, but that doesn't earn a top 4 spot. It all comes down to who did you beat. And when you look at Indiana's opponents, they have a combined record of 4-15. I will challenge you to tell me who is the Hoosiers' best win. We're talking about Michigan, Penn State, Rutgers, Michigan State. No, thank you. Then you look at Clemson and you see they have that good win against Miami. They have 4 wins against teams with 500 or better records. They've got Trevor Lawrence. He hasn't played in a really long time, but he didn't get any worse. He's still there. So I think all of those things come into play, and the committee will recognize those factors as well.
And the only loss for Clemson coming in double overtime on the road against Notre Dame without Trevor Lawrence. Maybe you're right there. All right. Meantime, in the Big 12 yesterday, interesting result, right? Bedlam in Norman. The game was never in doubt for OU. So much for that stud Cowboys defense, right? 21 first quarter points they gave up, 41 in all. Spencer Rattler, 4 touchdowns. Chuba Hubbard held to 44 yards on the ground. So it ain't exactly pretty, but here's a look at the Big 12 standings through 12 weeks of college football. And you know, EJ, given the way the Sooners look, not to mention Iowa State's 45-0 win over K-State, and the fact that both control their destiny to play in the Big 12 championship, do you see a path for either Oklahoma or Iowa State?
Kevin, I don't. And the reason is that the Big 12 at the top, they're all beating each other. Oklahoma beat Iowa State. Oklahoma beat Oklahoma State beat Iowa State, and Iowa State beat Oklahoma. So try to say that 3 times fast. And I think that's the issue with the Big 12 right now. They're all pretty much beating each other at the top. Now, of course, Oklahoma is playing great football, and normally they are in the top 4 as far as getting into college football playoff contention, but I think the early part of the season is what hurt them, and the same for Iowa State. When you have an early loss to an Arkansas State, a team that you have no business losing to early in the season, especially with the way some of these other teams are playing, I don't think they have a shot to get into the top 4.
All right, fair enough. A little bit cannibalization going on in the Big 12. Meantime, we get to the Samsung QLED film room for our top 4 plays of yesterday. BYU hosting North Alabama. EJ, Zach Wilson, the sidearm pass to Kavika Fanua. This is awfully creative.
Fanua. And Kavika is into the end zone.
Kevin, look, it has a little bit of Patrick Mahomes-esque in his game right here. You see the little sidearm side swipe, gets it to his running back for the big screen play that turns into a touchdown. Great job by Wilson.
BYU wins big. Meantime, Indiana, Ohio State. Late first quarter. We love this, right? Justin Fields back to pass, trying to make something happen. Throws to Chris Olave, except it's tipped, and then it's tipped, and then it's tipped, and then Trevor, look at the big fella, Jerome Johnson, get his bear claws on it.
Yeah, that is a dream for a defensive lineman. It happened because he hustled, and that hustle is what had Indiana playing the Buckeyes so close. That doesn't reflect Fields, though. That was a mistake that he won't make more.
Meantime, number 2, Tennessee, Auburn. Jarrett Garantano intercepted by Smoke Monday. Great name. EJ, we're not advising it. We're just acknowledging it. And a kick 6 or pick 6, they love those in Auburn.
Yeah, they definitely do. It seems like they have these at least once a year, but great job by Smoke right there, getting the pick and then also taking it to the house.
Auburn wins 30-17. Meantime, Heather, Bedlam, Oak State, OU, Spencer Rattler, and what a catch by Marvin Mims.
That was a
fantastic
spectacular play.
Incredible grab, and the Sooners win easily 41-13. Hey, we remind you, get in on the Capital One fan vote. What about those shots, right? Head to twitter.com/SportsCenter. To the computers, EJ. Then Clemson. Are you buying that?
You know what, Kevin? I'm not buying it, but I will say if Cincinnati was in a Power 5 conference, I do think they will be in. You have a great quarterback in Desmond Ridder who's obviously throwing the ball and running the ball. And look, my question about him was, can he win games from the pocket? And he's shown that. He's done a great job all season long. He definitely did it yesterday versus UCF. And look, they have a tight end that reminds me of Travis Kelce. Josh Weil, the guy had 81 yards, a touchdown catch. He's playing excellent football. He's a great receiver after the catch. And then the running back, Jared Doak, putting up 97 yards. So when you look at the combination of the athletes that Cincinnati has, I think they look like a Power 5 football team. And again, I think that's the only reason why they're not going to be in the playoff, even though the predictor's saying they will be. I don't think they will.
You know what? And of course, the defense for this Bearcats team has been great. And Heather, you've seen the merits of the Bearcats for you and your top 6 at points this season. They're back in for you. Explain why.
Well, a lot of it has to do with the fact they went on the road and won at UCF. And I want to say opponents at UCF are 1-23 in the last 24 trips to that school. And UCF is just a couple points away from being undefeated itself if you tally up those losses. Now, when you look at Cincinnati, their strength of record is number 4. And as somebody who pays very close attention to the committee's top 4, I can tell you that strength of record, which measures the average top 25 teams' chances of achieving the same record, that is 4. That correlates very closely to the way the selection committee views these teams over the past 6.5 years. So I do think that they have a chance. But I agree with EJ. They need chaos in the Power 5 conferences above them. The worst possible scenario for Cincinnati is for Clemson and Notre Dame to be in the mix, meaning Clemson wins the ACC and they split with each other, and for Alabama to lose to Florida in the SEC championship game, because then you're talking about multiple contenders ahead of them from the Power 5 in the conversation.
You're right. They do need things to sort of fall their way, but they are on the periphery right now. Heather, you're the expert on the committee philosophy. You've seen the process play out for years. We've talked about our top 6s. What do you expect from the committee on Tuesday?
Well, I expect a very similar list to what I had, to be honest, and this is a best guess. I do think that they will reward Texas A&M to this point for that head-to-head win over Florida. I'm not saying that can't change in the end. I certainly think it can, but as of now, I think it's status quo. And then I do think that they regard Cincinnati's strength of schedule as better than those one-loss teams, the Aggies.